The store appeared overnight. Yesterday, there had been a dusty corner unit on Maple and 3rd, with paper over the windows and a faded "For Lease" sign. This morning, there were white curtains, a soft pink glow, and a clean metal plaque that said, "Labubu, Official Experience Boutique." People lined up as if they had known all week. They held phones ready, smiling like it was a concert and they had scored tickets. Daniel didn't plan to stop, but he slowed anyway. He told himself he was only curious. He told himself he wanted a photo of how fast trends move. He ended up in the line with everyone else, hands in his jacket pockets, watching a staff member scan a QR code from each person's phone. "Welcome," the staff said when it was his turn. Their voice was warm and practiced. "This is a guided experience. Please keep your phone out. You'll need it to choose." To choose what? No one said, and no one asked. People shifted forward in small steps, like the line had its own heartbeat. The door opened and released a wash of soft music that made everything outside feel colder. Inside, the room looked like a storybook left out in the rain and dried back into shape. White shelves, pastel walls, a little pretend forest painted along the baseboards. In the center stood a low table with a single chair, child-sized, and a sign that said, "Please do not touch the chair." People aimed cameras at the empty chair, like it was famous. The staff guided them around the edges of the room toward a display wall, where the shelves held only one thing, Labubu. They were not boxed. They sat on the shelves like patients waiting for names. Their wide eyes caught the light. Their small hands rested on their knees. Each had a thin paper tag tied with red string to one ear. The tags were blank. "Hold your phone near the tag," a staff member said. "The tag will recognize you." Daniel laughed quietly at the phrasing. Tags don't recognize people. Systems do. But he held his phone near the paper anyway. His screen woke to a simple white page that said hello, and then one moment, and then in lowercase like a whisper, "We found yours." His shelf Labubu lifted its blank tag, as if the string had learned to float. The tag now had printed letters where there had been none. They spelled his first name, neat and centered. He stared at the tag and told himself there was a tiny printer hidden in the shelf edge. He told himself there was a camera behind the molding that saw his face and matched it to the QR scan. He told himself a lot of things. "Pick him up," the staff member said softly. As if waking a baby, Daniel picked the toy up. The plush felt heavier than it looked, like it had a small book sewn inside. The fur was soft in a way that felt more like skin than fabric. The eyes were glass. When he moved his hand, they caught the light in two white points that followed him. "He's yours," the staff said. "No purchase necessary. This is an activation event. You'll receive updates." "What kind of updates?" Daniel asked. "Care tips," the staff said. "Moments, memories. It's part of the experience." He looked down at the tag again. The back had a short printed line. "He remembers." He left with the Labubu in a simple white tote bag and a small folder of papers that felt nice enough to be official. The line outside had doubled. Two women near the front asked how long it took. 5 minutes, he said. "It feels like less." He planned to put the thing on a shelf at home, forget it, and give it to his niece on her birthday. That plan lasted until he set the tote on his kitchen counter. He meant to leave it there and finish his emails. He found himself taking the toy out and setting it on the table instead, facing the room as if it should watch what he did. He made coffee. The house smelled warmer. The toy sat politely. He took a photo because that is what people do with new objects. And the screen showed a small difference that he did not know how to name. Something about the eyes, or the tilt of the head, or the way the table's reflection lined up with the glass. He put the phone away and called himself dramatic. That night, he set Labubu on the living room shelf beside a plant he kept alive by accident. He went to bed with the soft feeling of a day that had been stranger than it pretended to be. At 3:11 a.m., he woke because he thought he had heard his name. The apartment was quiet. The hall light hummed the way it always did. He almost rolled over, and then caught the dark shape on the chair across the room, and sat up. He kept the room darker than most people. His eyes adjusted in a minute. The shape was the toy. He did not remember putting it on the bedroom chair. He got up and took it back to the living room, annoyed with himself for making a small thing bigger. He did not turn on the light. He set it on the shelf, turned it so it faced the wall, and went back to bed. Sleep returned slowly, like a cat that wants to see if you're safe. In the morning, his phone had a new notification from an app he had not installed, Labubu Care. He opened it out of habit. The screen showed a single card with his name and a line that read, "First night complete." Under it, a button, "Remember." He did not press it. He deleted the app. 10 minutes later, the app was back on his phone, polite as a returned letter. By noon, the city had learned the store existed. The boutique's tag trended. People posted photos of their Labubu in kitchens, on dashboards, at desks. The comments were what comments always are: sweet, brief, jealous, bored. A few users wrote things Daniel did not like to read. Did yours move? Mine was on the bed when I woke up. I think he turned his head. He went back to Maple and 3rd to see the crowd with his own eyes. The line curled around the block. Someone had set up velvet ropes since morning. A new sign on the door said, "Limited, 1 per person, experience only." He stood across the street and watched the faces come out. Most were happy. A few had the stunned look people get when a magic trick lands, even though they know there's a second hand somewhere. A man beside him said, "They say there's a factory tour." "Where?" Daniel asked. "Not here," the man said. "Invite only. You get a link. There's a shuttle." Daniel looked at his phone. No link. He sat on a low wall and waited to see what the day would make of the rumor. That night, he set the toy back on the shelf and put a book in front of it, so that when he woke, if he woke, he would know if the book had been moved. He slept hard until the hall light clicked and clicked again. He stared at the ceiling and told himself the building was old. When he rolled to the side, the chair by his bed was not empty. He moved the toy back to the living room without turning on any light, and told himself, for the second time, that this was nothing. When he sat down on the sofa to let his heart be offended for a while, his phone buzzed on the table. A map opened itself. A small dot moved slowly through his neighborhood toward his street. Under it, text read, "Tour shuttle, 3 stops away." He closed the app and looked out the window. A small white bus with tinted windows crawled past. No one stood in the aisle. The driver wore a cap with no logo. The bus stopped 2 blocks down. People stepped out and laughed the way people do when they think they are part of something rare. He did not wait for an invitation. He put on his shoes and followed on foot. The stop was behind an office building where the city stored extra snow in winter. A staff member with the same soft voice from the boutique checked phones for glowing tickets that had arrived on their own and waved people aboard. Daniel stood aside and listened. "Please keep hands inside at all times," the staff member said. No photos on the floor. All memories are provided for you. The bus left without him. He watched its lights disappear into the industrial grid where the city turns into warehouses and empty lots. He went home and did the one thing that made him feel like himself. He sat at his desk and opened a map. He marked the direction. He marked the intersection. He told himself he would find the place by dawn. He did not sleep. He waited for the hall light to click. It did not. He checked the living room shelf. The book sat where he had placed it. He checked the bedroom chair. Empty. He exhaled in relief, and then froze, because the relief felt like a line someone had written for him. At 5, he drove the route the bus had taken. The city was pale with morning. He turned into a lane that ran behind a strip of disused buildings. The second warehouse on the right had a new padlock and a paper sign taped to the door. Labubu, private tour, no entry. No cameras, no guards, no one telling him to leave. He walked around the building and found a loading dock open a foot as if for a cat. Inside, the air smelled like cardboard and heat. A long belt ran the length of the room. On the belt sat white boxes wrapped with red string. No logos, no labels. On a side table stood a printer that was not plugged into anything. It hummed in a small, confident way. The screen glowed with the line names retrieved. He put his hand on the first box. Warm. He lifted the lid, because there are times when touching is the only way to be sure. Inside, Labubu, facing up, eyes blank and bright. Hello, he called, because it felt like the right thing to say to a room that wanted to be polite. The belt moved. One box slid forward. Another took its place. Somewhere out of sight, a motor changed pitch. He stepped back from the line and saw in a glimpse along the belt's mirrored underside a reflection of small shapes, not yet boxed, arranged in rows, like a classroom waiting for the bell. He did not take a photo. He did not touch anything else. He left by the same dock and stood in the bright morning, feeling like he had woken from someone else's dream. By noon, the boutique was closed. A sign on the glass said, "Sold out, thank you," in letters that looked hand-drawn. The windows were empty again. The plaque was gone. People stood on the sidewalk, holding their toys, and looked at their phones like they had lost a signal. What came next happened fast, and the way city stories travel. Group chats, neighborhood apps, news sites, police scanners, a reporter with a tired face on the evening broadcast. A girl on Harrow Street said she woke up and the Labubu sat on her piano bench, head turned toward the keys. A man in the towers posted that his had vanished from the shelf and reappeared in the building lobby beside the elevator, looking up. A teacher said 3 of her students now owned the same toy, despite the 1-per-person rule, and none of the children would admit to bringing them to school. Someone filmed 8 Labubu sitting in a circle on a playground at night, and swore that when they came back with more people, the circle faced the other way. Daniel watched, took notes, and then stopped taking notes, because the notes made a list, and the list made a pattern, and the pattern made him feel like the factory floor had been a mouth he had stepped inside. The city announced a recall that no one enforced. A number appeared on the news. People called and heard a recording. Thank you for your experience. He remembers. The line went dead. The boutique's landlord said he had never rented to anyone. The owner of the warehouse said it had been empty for years. The bus company denied running a route through the industrial grid. Parents held toys by their ears and asked cameras if they were stupid for being scared. 3 days later, the stories changed shape. It was no longer about where the toys appeared in one city. It was where they appeared everywhere else. A woman in Madrid posted a doorbell camera clip, a white box with red string on her stoop at dawn. A man in Jakarta filmed a store shelf with 6 Labubu tucked among canned soup. A student in Lagos took a photo of the last car on a train and counted 10 small figures pressed to the rear window like children on a field trip. A soldier in a desert base held one up by the tag and said it had been left on a cot in the barracks, with no truck coming and no plane landing. News anchors learned how to say the name. Articles used photos from the boutique Daniel had visited and could no longer prove existed. Experts said it was a marketing campaign with no product. Lawyers said there was no company to sue. Someone built a site that tried to track where they appeared, and it filled so quickly that the map looked like it had a fever. One night, the city's weather radar showed a thin line of movement low to the ground, heading toward the river. The next morning, a jogger filmed a line of little shapes sitting 6 feet apart along the path, like markers for a race. Daniel stood in his apartment and listened to the hall light click and not click. He tried to put fear in a box. He turned the toy's face to the wall and put a heavier book in front of it. He ate standing up. Like food would not hold still. He slept with the door open, and then with it closed, and then on the sofa, because the bedroom felt like a stage. When he woke to a sound he could not name, it was not his phone. It was not the hallway light. It was the soft tap of something small set down on wood. He stayed very still. He let his eyes move first. The shelf was empty. The chair was not. The toy sat on the chair with its hands on its knees, like every photo and every video and every memory. The room's light found the glass and made the white points Daniel had learned to hate. He thought of the factory line with the warm lid. He thought of the printer that hummed without a cord. He thought of the staff's voice in the boutique saying, "All memories are provided for you." His own voice filled the room, calm and too close. It took him a beat to realize it came from his television, which was off. "Please do not touch the chair," it said. He stood and did not stand. He moved and did not move. He felt the weak old logic that people use at the end of long days. If I follow the rules, it will be kind. He reached for the remote instead of the toy, and the remote did not change anything. Across the world, at different hours in different rooms, people told cameras they had not invited anyone in, and then learned there are kinds of invitation no one feels themselves sending. A teacher locked her classroom and they were inside anyway. A bakery owner turned his sign to closed and came back from the oven to find one sitting on the counter, dusted with flour. A lighthouse camera streamed a lonely spit of rock at night, and for one frame, 4 small shapes sat facing the sea. The city where Daniel lived went quiet for a while, the way places do when they agree to pretend. Then a new boutique appeared 3 neighborhoods away in a leased laundry storefront. It opened at midnight, closed at 2, and no one remembered seeing staff. The next morning, more people owned what they swore they hadn't taken. The factory on paper never opened and never closed. The warehouse remained a number on a deed. The bus route did not exist. The recall line went from busy to not in service. The map site went down, then up, then down again. In the end, there was no end. The story simply widened until it was a thing you lived inside. Daniel boxed his Labubu and taped the box and wrote nothing on the top, because he did not want to give it a name again. and he left it in a closet and didn't open the closet and slept, because bodies require sleep. He woke to the feel of being watched in the way that is not a feeling, but a conclusion drawn from small clues. How air sits, how light leans. He stood in the doorway and saw the chair with its small, polite weight on it. He did not touch it. He did not speak to it. He said hello to the room, the way you do to a dog you do not want to startle, and sat on the floor with his back against the wall, and watched the white points in the glass, and wished for the first time in his careful life that he had never stood in a line because a sign told him he should. Some nights the chair is empty. Some nights it is not. Some mornings there is a white box tied with red string on a neighbor's step, or a video from someone he does not know in a city he will never see. The news stopped trying to keep up. The maps became art. The line at the next boutique forms hours before anyone admits it exists. If you want advice, there is none. If you want comfort, it is this. The thing is small. It does not run, it does not shout. It sits and lets you decide whether to move first. If you feel watched, do not say the name. If you see a chair and think of the sign, do not sit. If you receive a white box, do not bring it over the threshold. If you already did, place it somewhere you can count from. And at night, before you turn off the last light, look at your shelf and count. Then count again